Well, good morning, Kicksters. Welcome back to the Morning Kick. Now, I've been promising you for a while that we're going to have a guest from overseas, and I'm really grateful that Randy McCabe from Microsoft in the USA has agreed to join me this morning. Randy, thanks very much for coming on the show from Dallas. And I guess there couldn't be bigger than Larry Hagman's backyard to have a conversation with what's going on in America. How are you and the family over there?
Good. We're doing great. We are sheltering in place in Dallas. I've got a son who's a freshman in college, and so he's home from Texas A&M University living with us. And then I've got a son who's a senior in high school, and he's very anxious he's finishing his senior year, so that's a little bit difficult to miss out on some of the fun spring events that go with that. And then I have a sophomore and a fifth grader. So, but we're actually getting some family time, as you can imagine. I hope we all are, that we otherwise would not normally get. So that's pretty great.
That's absolutely brilliant. We're going to talk about how Randy and I first met, but at the moment, Randy is the business application sales leader for digital sales in North America, and he's got a business card that's this wide. It's like a Texas Longhorn. Randy, I was going to talk to you about what the role actually involves. So you're with Microsoft, and obviously Microsoft today is quite an amazingly diverse company. It now has interests in places like LinkedIn and GitHub. But what's your day-to-day responsibility?
Yeah, so we have a commercial side of the business and a consumer side of the business. On the commercial side of the business, serving companies, I serve as the Dynamics or business, what we call business applications specialist sales leader for North America, for US and Canada. And so we primarily sell Dynamics customer engagement, as well as finance and operations, which is an ERP. And then we have other kind of ancillary products that work with those, like Customer Insights, which is a data analytics platform, and Power Platform, which is a really neat low-code, no-code development environment. So, as you said, there's a lot going on at Microsoft, and it's pretty fun to be in the middle of it.
Randy, over the years, Microsoft's kind of been here and there with CRM solutions. I mean, we know that people have done amazing things with Microsoft Access and things like that. And let's not forget, you can do anything with an Excel spreadsheet. But how long has Microsoft been involved with the Dynamics product?
Yeah, that's funny. The Excel spreadsheet probably is still one of the most widely used databases in the world, right? And, about 20 years ago, I think it was in last fall, Microsoft acquired a company called Great Plains up in North Dakota, up in Fargo, North Dakota. And that company was a leading ERP product in the middle market in corporate America. And that was kind of the start. As you probably remember, Microsoft acquired a number of other companies. And, just in the last, 3 or 4 years, we have a very integrated and complete product solution that includes customer engagement and finance and operations. That's all integrated with Microsoft Teams and Outlook and Office, and it's all in the cloud. Running on Azure with Microsoft's best-in-class artificial intelligence, running throughout it. So it's a complete and integrated solution, and we're pretty excited about.
I was saying earlier, Excite Media has a large client who has been implementing Microsoft Dynamics over the last little while and across different business units. So obviously it has a wide space of application. Randy, you and I actually met a long time ago, and I'm trying to remember the year, but we were in, I believe it was Charlotte, North Carolina, for a broadcasting conference when you were CEO of another organization with a CRM. Do you want to give us a bit of background to that story?
Yeah, that was Orange Leap, and that was a number of years ago. Very fun time in my life running. It was a venture started company, so extremely different than what I'm doing here at Microsoft. And I remember the event we had there. We had a big dinner at that conference, and yeah, we had Tim Sanders' book, "Love is the Killer App." Is that the what you were referring to?
We have props. This book that you gave away to your guests at that dinner was absolutely impactful. A lot of people will know the Dale Carnegie book, How to Gain Friends and Influence People, but this takes it to a more modern level. You want to give a bit of background to who Tim Sanders is for those that don't know?
Yeah, so Tim and I actually worked together in the AudioNet and Broadcast.com. If you remember, if you know who Mark Cuban is, who started Broadcast.com. And Tim was a sales leader there, and I was really getting started in sales, and we kept in touch. And Tim he was an unbelievable presence and speaker, and he had a philosophy that he documented in that book, which was very different than you learned from a lot of business people who were trying to beat people, climb over people in order to get ahead. And his idea was share everything you have, and love others, and give, and you'll end up getting much more back in return. And that message resonated with me and my values, and so I just wanted to share that with as many people and customers as I possibly could.
Yeah, of course, Tim had great involvement with Yahoo as well. Listen, if you get the opportunity, I checked just before Randy and I came online to go live, and it is available at Amazon.com. So check out Love is the Killer App. Very worthwhile. Randy, you're heading up sales teams and dealing with this whole COVID-19 thing. Have you had to reevaluate your sales strategy, and is there a process that you walk through rather than it just being reactionary?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, interesting, fascinating time, unprecedented time. We have. It was in March when everything was developing. Was the end of our fiscal quarter, and we had a number of deals that were larger. Kind of what we call rip and replace deals, where we have to displace another CRM solution that slowed down. They still wanted to work with Microsoft. They had decided that Dynamics was what they wanted to use, but they wanted to press pause just because of the tremendous uncertainty in the world. And that obviously made us stop and wonder, well, what does that mean for our business? And Q4, this certainly is not going to end in a couple of weeks. And if it does, there's still, that doesn't mean that the economy just opens back up, sort of automatically, and everything's, back the way it used to be. So yes, we absolutely, have spent a lot of time, thinking and talking and brainstorming about, what that means. And I'll tell you, the first and foremost, where we've landed is focus on people, first and foremost. And to me, that has a couple of points to it. One is just care for people first. The people that who work for us, our team members, our customers are people, and we don't know how they're being affected by this. Obviously, some of their businesses are affected in dramatic ways, but they may have family or relatives, or we don't know how they're being affected by this. So this is an opportunity for us to care for people, to have empathy, and not only is that the right thing to do, but it's also that it's culture building for our team to be focused on caring and empathy and for each other. And it also builds trust with customers when we, instead of forcing what we want to happen from a business standpoint, or trying to manipulate something we want to happen from a sales standpoint, if we're really thinking about our customers first and caring about them, then that's going to build trust for years to come. The second thing I'd say is, well, go ahead if you wanted to. chime
Well,
in
I was
on that.
going to say, the interesting thing is selling a product like a CRM would have an extremely long sales cycle. There's obviously the introduction, there's building trust, there's trying to create a solution, and then there's a process to actually close the sale. I can imagine that that process of looking after people is going to help at both ends of the spectrum. The person who's meeting your team for the first time or meeting Microsoft as a solution provider need to be able to trust you. The person who's wondering, do I sign off in these uncertain times, needs to trust you as well. So that people focus has real positive outcomes all the way through the sales cycle.
For sure. Couldn't agree more. Second thing I'd say is to be thinking about trends and, watching trends and being able to identify opportunities. And, that's something that, in our business in particular, some of our solutions in Dynamics are, like you said, are going to, are big solutions with long sales cycles, and those may not be the ones that we focus on, over the next, quarter or two or more. But we have some other solutions that are extremely valuable to organizations who want to have especially deep relationships with their customers. We have a solution that's called Customer Insights, which is a data analytics platform that customers can get up and running very quickly and can help them get to know their customers better. So we're tending to focus on things like that to in order to take advantage of the market opportunity.
Is it a case that you can still bring certain sales forward, and how do you identify which ones you can push ahead with at a time like this? Is it industry based? Is it the value of the transaction?
Yeah, for sure. I think it is industry based because there are some industries that have been hit pretty hard. Because we have been focused on digital selling, and we are now even more digital selling, meaning we're all I'm in my, home office, and all of our sellers are in our, home offices. We're actually talking to customers more than we were talking to customers before. We had a lot of internal meetings, and we always were striving for more customer time, but our customer time has really, gone through the roof because we're home more, we have, more time. And that's helping us, when we go into those conversations with customers, if we're focused on them first as people in their business and caring about them, and then we try to keep an open mind. We're not assuming anything. We're not assuming that their business is bad or that we're instead, diving into their business, and we want to be insatiably curious, and we want to talk to them about what are their problems, what are their opportunities, because the good companies, the agile companies, are trying to figure those things out. And so if we can come alongside them and be partners with them in figuring out what those opportunities are and what their problems are that we can help them solve, then we can get them a Microsoft solution that's based on a business outcome that will do something for them.
I love the way you said be insatiably curious. Now is not the time to assume. As the old adage goes, all bets are off. It's time to start investigating again, isn't it?
Amen. Yeah. I mean, I read an interesting article you might have seen that actually Mark Cuban had tweeted about it, and I think it was Mark Andreessen, who was one of the founders of Netscape and the CTO of Netscape, and he wrote it, and the title of it was "It's Time to Build Again," and I think this is there are opportunities all around us that we can take advantage of.
I love it. It's brilliant. Listen, we wanted to touch on what's happening in the US. So Australia at the moment has been flattening the curve and seeing some great results to that. The death rate is low, but we look to America, we see it in our nightly news, and it is a concern, particularly what's been happening in New York. Can you give us a bit of a picture of how you see things from Dallas, Randy, at the moment?
Yeah, it is a picture. I would say, my point of view is it may be closer to yours than it is to someone who's living in New York, because in Dallas our numbers are pretty good. We've been we were fairly aggressive at the social distancing and the sheltering in place, and we're not having massive spikes that I'm aware of. And in fact, our governor on Monday came out and said, starting this Friday, we're going to begin to ease back into business, and he specifically called out things like restaurants and retail shops would be reopening, but trying to maintain about a 25% capacity in order to continue social distancing. At the same time, I watch national news from time to time here, and I'm seeing and hearing things about what's happening in New York. So I think a lot of people right now are cautiously optimistic that if we continue to be smart about if we, instead of rushing back into business, if we ease back into kind of opening up the economy and not doing anything dramatically, that we'll be able to kind of keep the positive trends going.
One of the things that I'm interested in, Australia has a slightly similar kind of government configuration, that we have a federal government and then we have state-based governments. And in America, you have a similar thing. Obviously, I don't need to talk about Donald Trump from the perspective of the amount of memes and conversation that everybody is aware of all the time. But what I'm interested in, does the average American look to their governor, or do they look to the president as far as dealing with this kind of pandemic crisis?
That's an interesting question. There's kind of a funny Texas answer to that, which is, Texas is kind of the state that's known for, like being very independent, and the fact that we were our own nation at one point in time. And so, a lot of Texans would say that, we're kind of Texan first, and we would, but I think in America, the reality is, so often we do get our news from the national cable networks, and I do think there's a feeling that we're all looking to, everyone in America is watching these briefings, that have happened almost daily, and everyone's keeping an eye on, what's going on in New York, and so I think. As much as I'd like to say, kind of Texas first, I think that across the country, Americans would say it's we're looking to our federal government leaders.
I guess there's, particularly when it comes to stimulus packages and things like that, you can do a certain amount at a state level or even a local government level, but you're really looking for dollars from the top in terms of the economy and things. No Randy, I want to ask you, just to leave us with a few thoughts, how do we actually build those relationships that you spoke about earlier? What are some ideas in terms of how we can reach out to potential customers, looking after our own staff, that we can do during these times?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say we've got to embrace the new, the old selling was getting on an airplane, getting in the car, walking the halls, knocking on doors, showing up in the lobby, and meeting customers. And now, to me, two big things. One is tools like, and this is going to sound like an advertisement because Microsoft owns LinkedIn, but tools like LinkedIn Sales Navigator that are connecting us as business people are just invaluable. And then I think, kind of what we're doing here on being on video, I think that, we all want the, personal connection. And so I think we should all strive to, when we're in business situations, rather than being on phone or even being on a Teams or Zoom or, WebEx or whatever you're using on a call, make sure your video's on. Let's connect as people. Let's look each other in the eye. Let's not start, diving right into business. Let's talk about how our families are. Let's talk about what we're feeling and what we're experiencing, because this time can be super isolating to us.
There's some good advice there. And Randy, I want to thank you for spending some time. I appreciate that you've been able to work from home. Keep looking after those boys. I hope they're doing well. I've got a 20-year-old doing his university degree, trying to do it at the moment because of these confronting and different times. Appreciate you coming on the show and for spending a bit of time and giving us an insight from the US of A.
Absolutely. Always good to see you and be with you. Thank you.
And make sure that you do get a copy of that book, Love is the Killer App, that we mentioned by Tim Sanders. Well, we're going to have another guest tomorrow, a marketing consultant who works in the B2B space. And it's interesting, as I've dealt with a lot of companies over the time, where we've talked about, I work in B2B. Our clients don't need marketing. They know us. They know how to get hold of us. That's an interesting conversation, because we look at B2B marketing and find that there are hundreds and thousands of searches in different industries happening on Google every day where business owners are looking for solutions. You're probably doing it yourself. So join me tomorrow on the Morning Kick, and we'll find out a little bit more about B2B marketing.